Let's start with a pretty wild idea. What if I told you there isn't just one you inside your mind? That's the fascinating and, yeah, kind of strange concept from psychoanalyst Donald Meltzer that we're going to dive into. The idea that your mind is way more like a crowded room than a single unified consciousness.
I mean, just think about that for a second. When you're thinking, who is doing the thinking? And even weirder, who's the one listening to your thoughts? It's the kind of question that, if you let it, can really make your head spin, right?
Well, this is where Donald Meltzer comes in with his radical answer. He says, no, your mind is not a single entity. Instead, he pictured it as this bustling, vibrant, populated landscape, just filled with all these different characters, dramas, and conflicts that are playing out inside of us all the time.
He gave this place a name, the inner world, or psychic reality. And you got to understand, for Meltzer, this wasn't just some poetic metaphor. He believed these internal relationships are incredibly real, and they have a direct, powerful impact on how we experience the actual world, how we love, how we work, how we live our lives. Okay, so if our minds are so populated, who exactly is living in there? Well, Meltzer's idea is that we all carry around a kind of core, archetypal family right inside of us. So, let's meet the cast of characters, so to speak. According to Meltzer, you've got an internal father, an internal mother, a boy child, a girl child, and then the most vulnerable one of all, the baby. Now, just to be clear, these are not literal people. Think of them as different parts of yourself that are constantly interacting, forming teams, fighting, and creating this nonstop drama inside our heads. And listen, the intensity of this inner world is no joke. Meltzer describes it as having this unique intimacy. He compares it to the deep concentration between a mother and her baby, the passion of a couple, the complete urgency of an artist at work. For him, this inner stage is where our deepest, most profound human experiences are really happening.
So, we have this internal family, this cast of characters. But where does all their drama actually play out? Well, Meltzer said our inner world tends to operate on one of two fundamental stages.
On one side, there's survival mode. This is a black and white world. People are either perfect, idealized heroes, or they're terrifying villains out to get you. Love here is totally selfish. It's all about, what can you do for me? But then, Meltzer says a kind of miracle can happen. We can shift into love mode. And suddenly, we can see other people and ourselves in full color. We see them as whole, complex beings with their own feelings. And that pure selfishness gets replaced by a real, tender concern. This is where true connection is born.
But here's the catch. Love mode is, well, it's hard. It's complicated. It's filled with tough feelings like guilt and loss and ambiguity. So what happens when we just can't handle it? When the complexity is too much to bear? Well, according to Meltzer, that's when we can resort to a really desperate, destructive act of self-sabotage. Now, Meltzer used the word perversion here, and I know that can be a jarring term. But for him, it had a very specific meaning. It wasn't about a single act, it was about a whole process, a violent attack on meaning itself.
To really get what he means, let's walk through an analogy that's actually based on one of his patients' dreams. So, picture yourself in a concert hall. You're about to experience this absolutely beautiful, deeply moving piece of music. This whole experience, that's our meaningful object. Now, here comes the attack, the dismantling. First, the real meaning, the music itself, is just dismissed. You decide to focus only on the shallow, visual part, like how famous the performers are. Then, you literally retreat from the experience. You leave the hall, so the beautiful music becomes just a faint, distant echo. After that, the rich, three-dimensional live event gets reduced to something flat and degraded, like watching it on a bad TV screen. And then, the final step. The entire, beautiful, meaningful event gets completely replaced by a single, fetishized little piece, a meaningless part. The whole is totally destroyed.
And that whole destructive process gets right to the heart of what Meltzer meant. Perversion, in his view, is the act of taking something whole and meaningful, whether it's a relationship, an idea, a piece of art, and violently dismantling it into these cheap, devalued, fetishistic toys.
And why? It's a defense, a way to avoid the pain and complexity of what's real.
Okay, so that's the destructive impulse, and it's pretty bleak. So, what's the healthy alternative? For Meltzer, the answer is found in the drive that he believes truly defines adult life: creativity.
He makes this really sharp distinction. He says, look, infantile sexuality is all about power, showing off, and just getting what you want. But then he asks a crucial question. What about adult sexuality? What's its real purpose?
And his answer really flips the script. He argues that mature adult sexuality isn't really about power at all. It's about discovery. It's not about showing off, but about a humble drive to preserve things. Its core function, he says, is to care for the vulnerable babies of our inner world. And by that, he means our new ideas, our creative projects, our actual children. In fact, he believed that the genuine, passionate impulse to do good work comes directly from this caring, generative, creative drive.
So let's pull all of this together now. We've got this inner family, these two different worlds they live in. Why does any of this internal drama really matter?
Because according to Meltzer, this isn't some minor sideshow. This is the very engine of our lives. The drama going on between the members of our internal family, and whether that drama plays out in the simple world of survival or the complex world of love, that is what profoundly shapes everything we do, think, and feel out in the real world.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's this: your mind is a living stage, and it's populated by an inner family. Their relationships can be in one of two modes: a selfish survival mode or a selfless love mode. Our biggest problems come when we attack this inner world to avoid pain. And our greatest strength, our true creativity, comes from learning how to preserve it and care for it.
And all of this really leaves us with a powerful question to turn back on ourselves. Right now, in this moment, what drama is playing in your inner theater? What conflicts, what alliances are unfolding inside your own mind?